stand up, please. Stand up. And let me introduce the next speaker. Make some noise. You can dance. You can. Are you awake or no?
Come on.
More or less. What do you expect?
Yeah. It sounds from my laptop. That's why. So yeah, let's dance. Come on. Move a little bit. Okay. I'm gonna just change this next slide. Oh, it's me. Okay. Yeah, because this talk is called more front ends. You can see it now. More problems, more solutions. So I made you stand a little bit. I don't know if you know me. I am the organizer and founder of CityJS. I work in Foolproof. It's a consultancy in London. It's part of a larger company called Gensar. For the past 1 year, I've been working on a project, and this is some of my experiences. So, I gave this talk about, I think it's September in React Alicante. So, I'm from the 90s. How many of you are here from the 90s? You have seen adverts in the 90s. So, this is a Greek advert. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you know this fairy advert. It was about fairy liquid. And there were, I don't know, Villa Bajo and Villarriba. And there were two teams that were washing the same dishes, but one team was using, everything is in Greek, so you don't understand anything unless you understand, but Latin comes from Greek, so you should be able to pick up some words. So yeah, the team that was using fairy liquid, they were able to wash all the dishes, no problem. So that was the magic solution. It just killed all the stuff, straight away. And, okay, 1 second. And yeah, look at that we have here. I asked him to take a picture earlier. He's the one that he pioneered on micro-frontends quite a lot. And he has written a book as well. I don't know if you have seen it. He came to my conference and he was signing copies. So yeah, before that I had someone else with holding the fairy liquid. I don't know if you know Kyle Simpson. He had this idea about micro-frontends long time ago, but that time, that it didn't have like that sexy name. So the sexy name, it became like a thing. And with micro-frontends, you can remove that kind of dependency that you have, and you can get the teams to work in silos, and you don't have to share the runtime, and you can build it independently. Because a lot of times, all of us, we have a lot of problems where we want to implement something, but we have a dependency with another team, and that slows us down. So about 12 months ago, I started working in a consultancy for a new project. There was we get like asks from different companies, and the main kind of thing was we would like to build a project with micro-frontends. We want you to deploy it in Vercel. We want to have a design system. We want to run it with Next.js and React. And a lot of asks like, do this, do that. We all get that, right? Like, can you do this? And they ask you to do everything. And at that point, it was not possible to do the kind of ask in Vercel. So my favorite kind of tool to use for micro-frontends or a concept is module federation, but it was not available on Vercel. So we have to go with Turborepo. And I don't know how many of you've done in mathematics like the proof of contradiction, when you try to prove something going from the wrong and coming to the actual, what is actually true. So that project, it did give us that kind of feeling. So these are the two colleagues of mine, Panos and Nikitas, like I would say the Greek mafia. And when we were thinking of the solution, we were discussing about those kind of four things: the technical debt, the performance, the scalability, and then, you know, one of the biggest problems we all have is the node modules, right? So a system as a whole. But this is the solution we found from Vercel. It was a TurboPack solution. If you take my slides after, if you click here, you can go directly to that location where you can download the solution. But I have to tell you, when you download it, it has a lot of problems. And that's what we're going to discuss now. So I will give you some, you can get my slides after, but one thing I will explain in a bit is that micro-frontends, and that you're going to read in Lucas' book, is that they have, you can have an application built in vertically and horizontally. You will see that in the next slide. This solution can only be built only vertically. It can be deployed in Vercel, and I think it's going to be very difficult after to be deployed in AWS. You cannot share really easily the dependencies, and the testing and implementation, it was very hard. We have to do a lot of adjustments to make it work, that you're going to see in the next slide. There were, every time I have to go and make a configuration in one micro-frontend, I have to go to the other micro-frontends and copy the same configurations. So it was very difficult to maintain as a project. The code itself, it's very dependent on Vercel. And as you know, Vercel, it keeps changes. So you have to keep up with the changes of Vercel. So that like increases the technical debt. This is like I took a video, so you can see that in the start of that video, there is the host app, and if you click on the docs, you can go to the actual remote app. And if we go to localhost 3001, we can see the actual app that the micro-frontend app that we are loading within the host app. Now, if we take a look at the code, we can see that in the apps folder, we have the two micro-frontends, the main app, which is the host app, and the docs app, which is the remote app. Then there is a packages folder that inside that packages folder, we have what we're going to be reusing in two micro-frontends. There is a design system, so we're using Storybook for that. And inside the design system, we can have button, we can have all these kind of components that we're going to reuse in two micro-frontends. While I was in the lobby with all the speakers at CityJS this year, that happened like a week ago, I was speaking with Luca, I was speaking with Zach, that he's the Module Federation guys, and I was taking a lot of advice because nobody's an expert of a thing. It's like something that has been built by a lot of really expertise. And what Luca advised me was that these components, they need to be not changing a lot, because then you have a lot of problems with your micro-frontends, because if you keep changing, it means that there is a lot of conflicts will happen between the micro-frontends, because these components, you meant to use them quite a lot in all the different kind of micro-frontends. So this is the structure. You can see the apps folder, the main app. It can be a booking app, a register app. Then you have a packages folder where you have a storybook. We're using the SWC quick compiler to compile the design systems. Inside the utils, we could create common libraries like authentication, Apollo server for GraphQL. So yeah, this is the overall architecture. So the first issue, sharing dependencies. we keep getting this error message when we were trying to create a dependency. This is, for example, a nav bar that I'm trying to use it inside my project in Microfrontends. I keep getting the sharing dependencies. So that was not really easy. I have to make a lot of configurations inside the tsconfig until it's all going to be working. And then every time I'm doing another change in another microfrontends, I have to copy all the configurations on each microfrontends. So like very chaotic. Testing. We have to create these kind of mappings to be able to find inside our unit tests the components that come from the design systems inside the microfrontends, a lot of mocks, and all this we have to replicate it across every microfrontend. So like duplication of code, very, very hard to manage. And that example was using the Turborepo version. So I started going back like, oh, remember these Webpack days? It used to be really good. So I could do vertical and horizontal solution. I could share the modules between the master, the host app, and the remote apps. And also, I will show you there is a video, but we're not going to watch it because of the time. You can watch it later. The Storybook guys developed a solution that is a federation plugin that you can use it inside your module federation. So you can use that plugin and watch that video. So I don't know if I can zoom this one, but you can see that there is this is the configuration file for the module federation, and here you can see that we can expose certain components that we can use them from our remote app into the host, but we can also share libraries. So if this microfrontend is going to run on the host, if the host doesn't have the React, let's say it doesn't have React, if we can share the dependency so it can run React on the host. At the very end, I will show you like another video that I found yesterday, that someone was building a micro-frontend project that the host was React and the remote was Vue, and was able to host Vue inside React. So if you have like a really big company, you could be hosting the Vue, and let's say, or if your company acquired a company that has a Vue, and now you want to bring that Vue project, but later on you want to build it in React, you can do it. You can just convert it to microfrontends and then import it into your React project. So that's possible with module federation. I started looking now for other solutions, and as I came across Vite. I have been using Vite for my conference website. I have seen a lot of improvements because the conference website runs on Netlify, and since then I have seen that the performance has gone down, and I can use much more of what is offered from Netlify. Although on the website it says that there's no need for a bundle, there is a need for a bundle on production, but not on development. So Vite leverages a lot of features from the modern browsers, but the cons, I have, you can see pros and cons. The cons is that it doesn't have full browser support, and it misses a lot of plugins from Webpack, with Webpack. So it's still very fast. It uses a lot of good standards. I think what Zach told me is that Chrome extension, it will slow your Vite down. And there is something going on with code splitting, tree shaking. This is an example of a project that uses Vite. So if you wanna try it later. But I think because most of us we are using Webpack, a better a better how to say transfer from Webpack with a faster performance, because RSpack uses Rust. It will be to go directly to RSpack than trying something different. It has a 10 times faster drop replacement from Webpack. It still uses the same kind of good capabilities of module federation that I showed you earlier. And it's developed by a really big company, as you know, I don't know if you know ByteDance. And it has a really large ecosystem. But at the moment, from what I was told, is that the ASM is being it's a work in progress. Okay, and yeah, if you watch this video, you're gonna see how you can use module federation and micro-frontends with, and also at the end it shows how you can import a Vue project into your React project. And yeah, there is still code. So while I was browsing on Twitter, my wife keeps complaining that I'm always on Twitter, but I keep checking the stuff. I found out that Guillermo finally announces that they are moving to module federation, but it's not like compatible yet with what is the module federation. So it's in a good direction. So soon, Next.js should be more compatible with the module federation. And that's another slide, the last one. So basically, all micro-frontends suffer from increased complexity, but you have to do a lot of unit tests. You have to have end-to-end testing. There is an operational overhead, but if you're using Datadog, New Relic, and other observability tools, you can get better. You can be able to overcome that. There can be duplication of code, but you need to know how to use, and what I just showed you earlier. There needs to be team coordination, and the remote types automatic updates of the contract can resolve API contract maintenance issues. And that's all for me. I think it was probably quite fast, I don't know. But yeah, if you have any questions, you can ask me. I'm organizing CityJS in Athens very, very soon. So if you want to come over there and see me, it's very hot as this room. I have a 20% discount code.
Hans, question.
Hello. Maybe it's a naive question, but when you have the shell application and
Can you talk a bit louder?
maybe it's a little naive, quite a bit naive as a question, but when you have the shell application that shares dependencies with some micro-frontends, and you have the artifact, the build of the shell and of the other micro-frontends, do the artifacts of the micro-frontend also contain their own dependency code? So like the size is quite big, but then it's useless because they use the one from the artifact of the shell? How does it work?
It's a good question. I think I'm not sure, but I think what you are running from the shell, it's running on the shell, but it's getting loaded on the host app.
Yeah.
But with what I showed you earlier, you can share the dependencies that you want in the remote app on the configuration file, so it can load. If you are using React, you can share for those components that you're going to share to the host app. You will need to share if that host app doesn't have those libraries or those dependencies. You will need to share them, so then the host app can use them. Because if React is not available on the host app, for example, you will need to send to the configuration file. So then they can be used by the host app.
Okay, so if you define them as shared, when you do the build process of the micro-frontend, they're not included, the shared dependency in the
that's
final
why
bundle.
you have to share them.
Okay, thank you.
Unless they are there, then there's no problem.
Any questions? Any? Really? From home? Do you have a question for yourself?
No.
A question?
Oh, there is one.
I have maybe a general question about micro-frontends deployments. So
Deployments.
yes.
So this application, we built it in Vercel. So when you go into Vercel, you can select your GitHub repo, and because it runs as a monorepo, it will detect the monorepo, and then it will create a different deployment for each of the micro-frontends.
Yeah, but not everyone can use resources like Vercel, for example, if you're in enclosed systems. So if you need to deploy micro-frontends, and let's say we have a large application that has a lot of micro-frontends, would you deploy them as separate instances?
Yes. Yeah, that is a concept, because then you can deploy its micro-frontend individual. So if let's say okay, let me show you. That's a good question, actually. So if I want to deploy the booking app, I don't need to deploy the register app. They're separate. So if in the page that I have the navigation, and then I have a product catalog. The navigation is one app. The product catalog is another app. So I can deploy the product catalog without deploying the nav. So they're independent. That means that if the team that is working with a nav is not depending on the team that works on the product catalog, because they're two different applications on the same page, though, or in different pages if it's the vertical split.
And for example, how then you handle breaking changes for the shell? Because it needs to load those.
But the shell is loading the independent applications. So it's basically, it's the shell. It doesn't really have, it shouldn't have like logic. It has the micro-frontends.
Thanks.
It's a good question.
Okay, my name is Massimo. Thank you for the speech. So what do you think is the limit when we can decide to keep an application as a monolith or split as several
That's another good question. So basically, when we started, we were like 3 people. If you are not too many people, you don't need to do micro-frontends, because it's like, unless the company is going to grow and it's going to scale, and then you need to use them. I think it was slowing us down because we wanted to develop the features in just 3 weeks, and we have to build a very big architecture, which if we would have done it as a SPA application rather than building a micro-frontend. But if you watched, I have some videos from another talk I did for micro-frontends, where I was showing also with module federation you can do SSR as well. So you can use the get static props to call the database. So basically you are isolating in end-to-end, some front-end and back-end for the micro-frontends. But if you are not many people, you can go just build a monolith. But there are ways of starting from a monolith and converting to a micro-frontend. So you need to think the future. You don't develop for now. But module federation, I think it's easy to start with a monolith and then break into. You can create the host, and then you can go into a bigger application.
Thank you.
We have a question from home. A question from Leonardo Muniz. When it doesn't make sense to apply micro-frontends?
I think it's similar to what you asked me, but I don't. I think it's a very good architecture in terms of splitting the code, like you know, making it like more understanding where things is, like you know the different domains for your application. But if you're a small team and you want to get something very quickly, like an MVP, I would say no. But if you are going to grow up quite a lot, then you need to use micro-frontends.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? No? Any other in the room? Yeah, there is one.
Hop, hop.
Ah.
Hi, Davide. I found somewhere that it's not a good idea to have micro-frontends using different framework, JavaScript framework.
No, I mean, that was not. I wouldn't do it. But let's say that you are acquiring a company that they are using a different, but you don't have time to redevelop the whole application. You still want to import it and then change it over the time. So you can do it.
Okay, but if we start a project from scratch, is not.
No,
best
of course
architecture.
not.
Okay.
I wouldn't do it because
There's
you
no
know.
guarantee.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And the way that he does it, if you watch the video, he creates a div, and then he uses the useref, and which it doesn't really, it's not semantically right because he's not bringing the component itself. It uses a div, and then he uses a useref. So it was like, yeah, it was funny and nice to watch, but not really to do it in the real life.
I'm Adam. You were saying you were using Next.js,
Yes.
no? I assume from the tweet you showed that the new app folder doesn't work with micro-frontends, or does it? I don't know.
The which one?
You know the difference between app and pages?
Yes.
And, you use pages, not app.
We use the apps folder. So
You use the app, so does it work?
So we didn't use the pages, like if you see here, we create a folder called apps, and inside here we create our micro-frontend, and its micro-frontend is a Next.js project on its own.
Okay, but you use the pages inside them, you use get static props and stuff like that.
Yeah, we use wait a second. Every project of this, it has its own pages.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, this box. Yeah, every project is a Next project. It has its own tsconfig. It has its own pages folder. It's just the main app. It's loading the.
Okay. So the new versions of Next do
whenever
support.
Yeah, that's another good question. Every time there is a change in dependencies, you're gonna have to go and update the dependencies of your project. You might have problems. So yeah, you have every micro-frontend has its own dependencies. So you need to maintain those dependencies, but they're independent. In this kind of project, every time we're changing one micro-frontend, it was still feeling like we're doing a monolith. So it wasn't feeling like we're doing micro-frontends. Because every time one dependency was changing one project, then we have to go to the other project. There were a lot of conflicts as well in our PRs. Then to end-to-S, they were not really working. Those, they need to be separated. Every project needs to be its own entity.
Thank you.
No more hands, no more questions. Okay. Okay, thank you, Aris.
Thank you.